Welcome to Chasing the Past, the show where we step away from the flashbulbs of today's headlines and dust off the chapters of racing history that time and fame too often forget. Today's episode, it's a twist, because we're not chasing some obscure champion. We're not uncovering the story of a horse whose name has vanished. We're talking about a name you hear every week, a name that shows up in every sales catalog, every sire list, every Derby pedigree breakdown, into Mischief. But we're not talking about the stallion. We're talking about the racehorse. The one who won a Grade 1, the one who had raw, undeniable talent. The one who, believe it or not, was nearly forgotten in the moment he was born into greatness. So buckle in, because we're about to chase a past that's hiding in plain sight. To understand Into Mischief, you have to go back to 1995, to a filly named Leslie's Lady. She was no star on the track, winning just 5 of 28 starts. But she had that quiet, genetic fire that shows up when you least expect it. Her first real splash as a broodmare came with a foal named Into Mischief, born in 2005 by the hot young sire Harlan's Holiday. At first glance, the pedigree was solid, not spectacular. Into Mischief was raised at Spendthrift Farm, who co-bred him and sent him to the 2007 OBS March 2nd-year-old sale. He didn't exactly blow the doors off. He brought $180,000, not pocket change, but not headline material either. He went to be Wayne Hughes, a passionate owner and Spendthrift's visionary, the kind of man who saw potential before the rest of the world caught up. And so Into Mischief joined the barn of Richard Mandeller. Yes, that Mandeller, the Hall of Famer who trained Beholder, Pleasantly Perfect, and countless others. At the time, Into Mischief was just a precocious juvenile with a funny name and a big stride. But that was about to change. It was late October 2007 at Santa Anita, and Into Mischief debuted in a 6-furlong maiden special weight. He sat just off the leaders, showed a turn of foot, and powered home to win by 1.5 lengths. Right away, people noticed the class. He looked smart, smooth, tactical. Next, a big step up, the Grade 3 Hollywood Preview Stakes. He ran well, but didn't win, finishing second to a promising colt named Massive Drama. Still, there was no panic in the camp, because Mandela knew something. This colt had more in the tank. Then came December, and the Grade 1 cash call Futurity at Hollywood Park, the final top-level juvenile race of the year in Southern California. This was the race that would define Into Mischief's career. He broke clean, he stalked, and when the moment came, he pounced. He ran down Colonel John and Massive Drama, digging in with the fighters, heart down the stretch. Into Mischief was a Grade 1 winner, not just a flashy sprinter, not just a sales ring story. A bona fide top-tier 2-year-old in a year full of heavyweights. But here's where the story gets strange, because that was his peak, not as an athlete, but as a headline. In early 2008, the Kentucky Derby Trail was heating up. People were buzzing about Big Brown, Colonel John, Pyro. And yes, for a moment, there was buzz about Into Mischief. He was being pointed toward the San Vicente Stake as a sophomore starting point, but his season was delayed, training interruptions, a minor setback here, a skipped work there. By March, he reappeared in the San Vicente and won. It wasn't flashy, but it was efficient. He stalked the pace and ground out a 1.25 length win, enough to stay on the Derby radar. Next came the Grade to San Felipe Stakes, one of California's key prep races. He faced off with Georgie Boy, a multiple Grade 1 winner, and Into Mischief ran his heart out, finishing second after getting caught late. It wasn't a bad loss, but the signs were there. The distance might not be his friend. His stamina was solid, but his brilliance lay in bursts. Then came a decision. Mandela and Hughes pulled the plug on the Derby Trail. They felt the 1.25 miles of Churchill Downs, and the grind to get there wouldn't bring out the best in their colt. And so Into Mischief was sidelined briefly. Fans moved on, the Triple Crown took over, Big Brown exploded onto the scene. Colonel John won the Santa Anita Derby, Pyro fizzled. 8 bells captured hearts and broke them. By the time Into Mischief returned in August, 7 months after his last start, the world had changed. He made one more start in the Malibu Stakes, a 7-furlong sprint to close out the year. He finished second behind Bob Blackjack. Then that was it. 6 starts, 3 wins, 1 Grade 1 victory. Career earnings $597,080. Retired sound, retired early, retired quietly. Now I know we said this show isn't about Into Mischief the sire, but to really understand how forgotten his racing career is, you have to understand what came next. Into Mischief entered stud in 2009 for just $12,500. He wasn't expected to dominate, not with that short resume, not with sprinterish tendencies, but he had 2 things no one could measure: genetic magic and grit. And by 2012, his first crop was flying. By 2016, he was a top 10 sire. And then came the deluge. He started doing what no one predicted. He sired 3 of the last 5 Kentucky Derby winners. Authentic, the wire-to-wire star of 2020. Mandaloun, who picked up the 2021 Derby via disqualification and had run the race of his life anyway. And Sovereignty, who shocked the field with a powerful drive that capped off an improbable rise. Into Mischief wasn't just hot. He was dominant. His stud fee soared to $250,000. He became the foundation of Spendthrift Farms' stallion empire, and with each new stakes winner, each new Derby hopeful, the story of his racing days got pushed farther and farther into the background. Why does it matter? Why talk about a Grade 1 winning colt whose stallion career turned out 10 times bigger? Because it reminds us that racing legacies aren't linear. Into Mischief wasn't a disappointment on the track. He was brilliant. He just never got the chance to become a superstar. 6 starts for triple-digit Bayer figures, a Grade 1 win at 2. He was fast, tough, game. He had the tools. But racing, like life, doesn't always give you the fairytale arc. Into Mischief's racing legacy is a footnote, but that doesn't mean it wasn't worth remembering. In fact, it's the very foundation of what made him great. He passed on the things we saw in those early races, and the things we almost saw. That punch at the end of the cash call, that savvy move in the San Vicente, that willpower in the stretch of the San Felipe. He didn't win the Derby. He never even ran in it. But somehow, 3 of his sons did and won. Because that's the kind of impact you make when your past matters, even if people forget it. So next time you're reading a pedigree page, next time you see by Into Mischief, don't just think of the stallion who topped the earnings list. Don't just think of the $250,000 stud fee or the Derby winners or the auction ring fireworks. Think of that long-striding 2-year-old flying down the Hollywood Park stretch in December 2007. Think of the colt who never got to show everything he had, but gave the game more than anyone could have dreamed. Because sometimes the most powerful legacies begin in the chapters people skip. And that's why we chase the past. Thanks for listening. This was Chasing the Past. Be sure to follow, subscribe, and tell a racing fan that behind every great sire, there's a racehorse with a story to remember.
Now open! The Beat the Odds Horse Racing LLC store is officially open. With over 100 horse racing themed products, including shirts, hoodies, stickers, and more, you're sure to find something you love. Check it out now at www.tohr.com and discover your perfect match today. Don't miss out. Shop now and beat the odds.